Morning. So for the next week or so I'm going to be in the bilges, a very glamorous place to be. We're trying to prevent as much rust as we can before we do the big paint next year, and these were the obvious places to start because they haven't got any water in them yet, and if I get those done I can just forget about it. As I said on the last video, the engine's in here, which makes it a nightmare because we have to really cover every surface as much as we can. So first of all, we had to sand all the primer that's on it down with quite a coarse grade sandpaper. Where the metal has joined, you have a sort of ripple effect, like a scar where the weld is, and on those bits I've had to use this nifty bit on the end of the drill, which is quite worn down now, but that takes it right back to bright metal and means that we can put a little bit of the rust converter on where it won't get in, and then cover it. Then there's 2 coats of red oxide primer, and it has to be done in section because you sort of paint yourself into a corner and then you have to get yourself out, wait for the other paint to dry, and then get back into a dry corner and paint the corner that you've left. Each coat has to go on after 16 hours and within 3 days, so it's time sensitive. Then we get the bilge paint, which is here, really expensive, but it's not a 2-part one, which makes it a bit easier. And I've gone for a sort of white grey colour because you can see everything that's in there afterwards. It makes it much easier if it's light rather than dark. And also when you're painting over red oxide primer, you can see where you've been, where the first coat and where the second coat has to go. It stinks, so that's on most of the time. And for those fiddly little bits, I found the radiator brushes work really well for getting under the engine and into tight corners. The whole thing takes days. I shall probably be finished this sometime next week. I'm going between this one and the front locker, and I'll be glad when they're finished. I've nearly finished down here. The last little bit, and I'll be glad to get out of this hole. It's really tricky. I've chosen this very pale grey paint because it brightens the whole area up and you can see into the corners. It'll be great, you know, if you drop something in here or if you've got to work in here, you want to be able to see what you're doing. I think I've covered everything. I've got to come back and do these bits under here because doing them while I'm in here with all the rest of the wet paint was going to lead to a hair stuck on the top disaster. That's why I'm wearing scarves and things. So, well, it's nearly done and I'm really pleased with it. It's looking good. Off to the front locker now.
Well, while I was on my way to the front locker, this turned up next door on the back of a truck. We're told it's going to be a houseboat, 70 by 15. But at the moment it looks more like a skip. I'm not quite sure. That doesn't look like 70 by 15 to me from here. Anyway, down it goes onto the pallets.
Oh, and it's down. I've just been told there is another section, which I imagine will slot somehow onto the other side. We shall watch with interest.
So a second section did come in and it got slotted onto the side of the boat, and it was followed up later on by 2 more rear sections which went onto back two sections that have come in previously. I think these are the chaps that made the moulds for this boat. Anyway, it's going to be joining the houseboat community on the other side of the river once it's had its timber superstructure built on top. So this is going to be a nice project to watch.
Meanwhile, while I've been busy painting away, H has been over in this corner sorting out this lot. Probably the most important job we've done so far, and to be honest, it's probably the most important job we will do. So, what's going on over here then, H?
Hiya. Well, we got one or two wiring bits and pieces put in, like all this lot. We had lots of help from a friend of ours, Graham. He's kind of done all the technical fancy bit, and I've done the grunt work. We've got the batteries down here, we've got the inverter here, and all the other associated wiring that goes with that. We've also been buying various bits and pieces because we don't want to be buying everything brand new just because it's new. This is our distribution panel, lots of wiring on the back. That will serve all the boat's various outlets. Along with that is going to go the bilge pump switch, and both of these are going to go up on this panel. That will be a cupboard in the end, and there will probably be more other electrical bits and pieces in there, light switches perhaps.
We got all those from Narrowboat bits and bobs, didn't we? Really handy.
Yeah, it's very, very handy. In fact, we've got one or two other bits and pieces that are not here, but they will be fitted as we go. This has been quite a long job, the wiring, or this wiring here. And once this is done, which I want to be done within the next couple of days, then we can start on wiring proper for the rest of the boat. We'll probably start with the lights because that's the most complex really, with the wires that have to go along and up and over and various other locations. We've done lots of work alongside of this as well. We've got the trunking in place to carry the wires the full length of the boat on both sides. So although that has been a bit of a slog, it will make life very, very easy once we actually start that wiring.
So while I've been painting the engine bay, we've noticed that after heavy rain we get a lot of water down in one corner of it, and we've been trying to identify the problem, and Henry's realised that it mainly comes down to this area here. So this bracket has been cut for the piece of steel that goes across here, and it's been cut too low, and there's a weld here which is a bit high, so instead of the water coming along here and going down into the drainage hole and out the boat, it's coming over the edge here and straight into the engine bay. So it's quite good to find that and figure out what the problem is, because we can do something about it. And what we're going to do about it is to make up a ledge using Sugru. So if you haven't come across this before, it's an amazing mouldable glue. You can use it for all sorts of things. It has about 1,000 different uses. So basically you take it out of the sachet, you mould it into whatever shape you want, or you fix whatever crack you want or whatever. So I'm going to put it down here and make a really thin ledge. After 24 hours it sets like rubber, and then we can divert the water back around here and into the drainage hole. We'll probably also grind this down a little bit. The Sugru, I got this from B&Q, but I've just bought the last 2 packets they have down here, and unfortunately they're not going to sell it anymore. And I think the problem is that it's very hard to categorise. I found this in plumbing, but they have had it in the paint section before, and I think because it has multi-use, they find it very difficult to categorise and find a place for it. the thing with Sugu is unless you know about it, you don't know about it. But anyway, if you don't know about it, check it out. It's brilliant. Well, this is the last bit of the painting for this week. It's the clamp that goes on top of the weed hatch. Back engine bay is done, front locker is done. I had to give up on the mask because mask and glasses just don't work together. I kept steaming up. So I'm really glad to be out of those holes because they stink. Anyway, they're done. And hopefully that'll be it for about another 6 years on those. I don't want to see those again in a hurry. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Bye.